Welcome, coaches, to the Coaching Magic Podcast, where we reveal, discover, and create the insights, tools, and aha moments that make your coaching seem, well, magical. I'm your host, Jill Young, and I invite you to listen up, giddy up, and buckle up as we play with this creative profession of coaching that helps humans become their best, including you. In today's episode, we are nerding out with Marisa Smith. We are digging into the psychology and the science behind coaching. Some of the things you will be looking forward to in this episode is, first, we really talk about change and why change is so hard. And we unpack the miracle that humans can work together at all in some things that Marisa reveals to us. We are also geeking out on language and how little tweaks to your language can make such a big difference in your life and in the lives of your clients. And if you're feeling like, oh, if this is a science-heavy episode, I might skip it, don't you dare skip it, because we also sprinkle in a little magic and talk about the fairy door tunnel that Marisa and I have that connects us. So listen in for those little morsels. I hope you really enjoy today's episode. Have fun with it. Marisa, I'm so excited to have you on the Coaching Magic Podcast today because number one, we are besties.
BFFs.
Yes, Marisa and I are BFFs. We geek out a lot around money, parenting. Yes, check. And we like to geek out a lot around things of the brain and science-y psychology stuff. Marisa, you run a really cool workshop around psychology. It's for coaches to just like get us all acclimated. And I've taken your course, your workshop, and it's getting me all acclimated to like all of the good parts I really need to know without having an entire psychology degree, which ironically I have a psychology degree. But here's what hit me after taking your course for the first time. That when for coaches to get an entire team working together and moving in one direction is a miracle that it even happens, because there is so much going on in the human brain. Right. And of course, I call it coaching magic. You call it coaching magic. You know, we have fun together on that. But talk to us about what it is that's so hard about getting humans all going in one direction to get what they want. They've said this
to
is
get what they want, right? Well, that's what they say they want. They don't always act like, right? As all coaches know, right? Sometimes you're like, why are you doing this? You said you want this other thing and you're not acting anyway, right? In a way that's going to get you that, right?
Yeah, let's start with that. Yeah. Like people, humans, teams, they say they want this thing, but do they really? Let's start with that.
Right. Well, I think that one of the things that as I was putting that workshop content together, I know change is hard, right? I had experienced it, firsthand watching people try to change, but I was like, why is this so hard, right? So, on the surface, sometimes you can just think, well, people are just annoying, right? They're just like, they won't do what they're right. And it's like this intentional thing and they're just resisting it. And they're like, they have a lot of choice in it. And I, to some degree there is obviously there is choice, but there is so much going on in your brain that almost, prevents you from changing, right? Because of this, you have these neural pathways that have been formed over, years of doing something the same way, right? And so then when you are asking your brain to do something different, there is literally like rewiring that has to happen there for it to take hold. And that is not easy, right? And so it takes repetition, it takes time, it takes all of these different factors, for that change to actually occur. Um, and so it's not always just a person resisting it, right? It's their brain is resisting it in many ways, right? So that gave me a lot more empathy for the people involved
Mm.
when I understood a little bit more about the physiology of what's going on. Now, I want to make a caveat here. I am not a neuroscientist. I do not have a degree in psychology. My mom does. And so she and I worked on the workshop together. And so this is what I am saying is stuff I learned from her. There is a 80% chance I'll get it not quite right as I repeat it back to you. So,
And knowing you that it's more like there's a 2% chance you might not get it right. Um, you get a lot of things right. You get a lot of things right. As you were sharing that, like, why is it so hard? You said something like rewiring. There's
yeah.
actual rewiring that has to happen. And this image
Hmm.
came to my mind of turning on a light switch and nothing's happening because you didn't go back inside the walls and rewire this
Rewire it.
switch
Yep.
to go to that light.
Hmm.
I so the rewiring that happens, and then also I want let's dig into empathy just for a little bit. I loved your reaction. You're like,
Right.
wait, what?
Right.
Just so you feel comfortable, Marissa,
Yeah.
when I took the Strength Finders assessment,
Mm.
empathy is a strength. It's one of the 34
Hmm.
strengths. For me, when Strength Finders put it in order from number one, Jill's number one strength, down to the 34th strength, which, listen, we're just, who's kidding each other? It's just my worst strength. Number 34 was empathy.
Really? Oh, that
Yeah.
surprises me based on what I know about you.
So
Interesting.
let's you and I geek out on empathy.
Right.
Um, you said it gave you empathy for people as to why change is so hard. Where has that shown up for you in your coaching, this empathy?
I think it has helped me be a little bit more patient with the amount of time it takes for a change to occur, especially in behavior and mindset, things like that. Again, um, I always would say I've had empathy for the feelings, the emotions that they're going through. Like I can easily like put myself in their place and imagine, oh gosh, this is what this must feel like, right? But then the logical side of my brain, I am a very, high follow through. I'm organized. If I say I'm going to do something, I just generally will just like go do it, right? And so struggled sometimes with people not doing, like we were describing at the beginning, not doing the things that we all clearly agreed that they needed to do to get to this other thing, and we'd come back 90 days later and they wouldn't have done any of it, right? And I'm like, gosh. So once I understood a little bit more about the psychology of the change that they were having to go through, but also the change that then, if you think about the entire organization, right? It's not just the one person on your team changing, it's then they're trying to get other people to change. And, there's this whole ecosystem, right, that has to interact with one another. And it's complicated, right? And it does take time and it takes repetition. So we have this phrase, we're both EOS implementers, right? We have that phrase of 7 times, right? It takes people at least 7 times before they really begin to hear something new, right, for the first time. And so it just gave me some more empathy again and understanding for why that is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, like I said, because people are annoying, and it's because their brains really do need to like absorb that information multiple times before it really, locks in and makes that connection. So,
I'm even
yeah.
sensing in you when you said, people are annoying. When
Yeah.
you went into more of a patient approach, you were
Yeah.
even being more patient with yourself.
Yeah. Yes, I think for those of us who coach, especially we coach teams for an entire day, and you get done with that day and you're thinking, gosh, why am I so tired? But then if I describe to somebody else what we are doing in the room and that we're holding space for 3 to 8 people and all the different emotions, and they're all at different stages of change. Sometimes people have been on this particular team for 5 years, and then you have a new person who's only been there for 90 days and they're at a different spot, and just all the different things that are at play. You think to yourself, oh well, gosh, no wonder I'm so tired. Like, I need to give myself some grace. I need to make sure I give myself time to recover.
Mhm.
There's a reason that I'm feeling drained or whatever at the end of the day. So yes, empathy kind of all around the table for
All
sure.
around empathy
Yeah.
for all. One of the
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I've noticed myself doing that 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 works with clients and coaches too, is because I know this about the brain, the human brain, and because I love how you said, like, do we really have a choice? There's so much wiring back there that really isn't in the prefrontal cortex,
Mm-hmm.
that do we really have a choice? Um, I've found myself using the words to people like, okay, this is normal. Like, this is
Right.
normal. And that
Mm-hmm.
seems to de escalate some of the reaction that people are
Mm-hmm.
like, this didn't go perfect the first time. And I'm like, this is normal.
Right. It's
I've
normal.
also
Yep.
found myself using words like it's designed this way, it's
Mm-hmm.
normal, designed
Mm-hmm.
this way. But one other thing that just popped into my mind as you were sharing this again, like teaching me again, 7 times, Jill,
Right.
is the organization's energy in this whole
Yes.
change stuff. We're talking about the individual's brain, and hopefully, maybe you can talk about some nerdy stuff today, like schemas and, fancy word for the day. But I'm in the middle of coaching my son, which you and I love to talk
Mm-hmm.
about coaching our children. Just really being a sounding board and a support to him as he's starting his own business.
Mm-hmm.
And once what he's experiencing is he gets his mindset wrapped around this. I know what I'm going to do. I know all this stuff. Then he
Mm-hmm.
goes back into his job because he's in that 2 week notice time. So he's still there
Yep.
at his
Yep.
job. And he comes home and he has like the gravity of the entity, I guess, of the
Mm.
people and his boss and the feeling. And,
Mm-hmm.
he works with his brother. So that's nice. It, it weighs on him. It has a gravity to him.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that? Like maybe you've seen that, or maybe why that is, or what you're just even like what your first thoughts or hunches are.
So do you mean like the when you say gravity, maybe you could say a little bit more about that. Does it like a sense of responsibility or
Mm.
just the
Yeah. Okay. This is what I'm sensing in him
yeah.
is nostalgia.
Oh.
I'm sensing belonging.
Mm-hmm.
These are the words that he's saying: nostalgia, belonging.
Mm.
Um, this is what I've done for 10 years, and so I'm going to go out and do
Mm-hmm.
this thing.
Mm.
And it's almost as if it's this. I've been using this word lately, this phrase, I guess, a comfort prison.
Ooh,
Like I'm so
interesting.
yeah, I'm so comfortable, but it
Yeah.
wasn't comfortable. He
Mm-hmm.
had to get out. He knew that. But there was
Right,
something about
right.
going back into that environment for the last two
Mm-hmm.
weeks where it's like he's like, oh, maybe like that nostalgia of it was it so bad? Is it so bad over
Right.
here?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yes, as you said that, especially as we think about our clients who are trying to change, right? So that there's something that they are not happy with. They know they need to do something different, but they are used to doing it the other way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a comfort in in whatever they've been doing that is getting whatever the result is, even if that result is not what they necessarily want, right?
Right.
And so to break out of that and do something different, there is uncertainty at that next layer, right? So there's a certain, like, you know how you're going to feel, even if that feeling is not great, but it's
Yes.
certain.
Yes.
You hope that if you do something different, you will feel different, but you don't know. And what if you don't?
Oh,
What if it's worse? Right? And so
right.
sometimes I think people stay where they are, and this applies to all kinds of situations. I'm sure we could go crazy
So
with this,
many.
right? But there is that comfort, that safety, even if it's feeling safe in something that's maybe not great for you, right?
Wow.
Um, and so then convincing yourself, there's that phrase that we all say in our community, if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? And so people will come
Mm.
in saying we want this thing, right? And this isn't working, and so we're going to have to change to do this, but they just want it to happen sometimes. They don't necessarily want to have to do something different to get that other thing, right?
Yes.
And so like helping people see the connection between like, okay, so you can't just keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. You're going to have to do
Mhm.
something different if you want a
Mhm.
different result. There's a resistance to that. A lot of it probably comes from that comfort level or that safety
Yeah.
feeling, and
From
maybe it translates into nostalgia, as you said, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that
Hmm.
you said the word I was hearing is that safety.
Yeah.
My husband, which is what I call my ex-husband because it's way more fun than ex-husband. My husband
Hmm.
used to say, "Well, it's the devil I know." But
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
oh, so
Yeah.
yes, we're comfortable with that, but at least there's
Hmm.
certainty.
There's certainty.
And
Hmm.
that's, I guess, I think is
Hmm.
what I remember from your workshop too, is that a
Hmm.
lot of our brain is wired for safety and
For safety,
certainty.
right? Hmm. Yep.
Safety and certainty.
Yep. Well, and we're dealing with intelligence, theoretically, intelligent beings,
Mm-hmm.
right? We fancy ourselves. We have this brain that is capable of all of these things, but at its core, we're still animals, right? We still
Yes.
have like we are biological beings. There's chemistry, chemical reactions going on. There's
Mhm.
hormones. There's neurotransmitters. There's all this stuff going on. When somebody reacts negatively to something and their face gets all red and they get out of breath, they can't always control that. They're having a physiological reaction to feeling unsafe in the moment, right? We've all seen somebody,
Yes.
at in our sessions, somebody says something and they just like go up. You could just feel them get into this fight or flight
Mm. Yeah. It
state. And,
it happens.
we'd like to think that we have total control over that, but we don't necessarily,
No,
right? And
we
so
just
having
don't.
empathy for that and helping people say, like, that's normal. And also, there are ways that we can like take deep breaths and take a
Mm.
break and, listen to calming music or whatever to kind of bring that reaction back down. That is something that we can do to,
Let's
control it.
maybe
So it's just interesting. Yeah.
let's go into that for a little bit because I think this
Yeah.
is really helpful for coaches um, who are listening too. There's a Steve Chandler. Well, this is where I first learned the distinction from Steve Chandler. I've seen it other places too, but it's moving from reaction to
Mm,
creation.
mm,
And it's also in the drama triangle and the power,
mhm.
the empowerment dynamic, creator, reactor. Um, the words creator and reactor have all the same letters. I love that. They're just jumbled up.
Ooh,
Oh,
ooh,
isn't
ooh.
that fun? Marissa loves words. She's like,
I
yeah.
do.
So they're just
I
all
do.
jumbled up. And I think that I get this sense of our job as a coach is to help humans move from that. I'm going to call it natural reaction because that is a
Mm,
natural thing in our
mhm,
bodies.
mhm,
It is natural. And it is also normal because of our society. So
mhm,
natural and normal to react.
mhm.
It's fight or flight, natural, chemicals.
Yep,
Normal
yep.
reaction is like, don't you step on my turf, my idea is better than yours. And
Right,
we
right.
have some of that. We have some of that too, that intellectualizing. Intellectualizing. Is that a word? Marissa?
I think so.
Okay, we're going to make it a word today,
If it's
even if
not,
it wasn't.
we'll make it work. Yes.
Ta-da. So, coaching at one of our jobs, or one of the big benefits of having a coach, is a coach can help a team, a human, move from reaction to creation.
Mm-hmm.
What do we want to create with all of this stuff floating around in the room?
Mm-hmm.
So let's geek out for a few minutes on what are those. I had one coach call them a sharp turn. They don't need to be
Mm.
sharp, but what are those things we can do as coaches to move people from reaction to creation?
Mm-hmm.
You sprinkled in a few of them already. I just want to slow them
Mm-hmm.
down and like really.
Yeah. So I've always liked the word shift. So what can you shift? And my friend Anise Kavanaugh uses that term. That's where kind of I connected with that term. What's the littlest thing she would say that you can shift to shift your state, to shift your energy, to shift your mindset? It just feels like it's just a notch versus a, right?
Yes,
Just a,
that sharp turn that I'm like, I don't
yeah,
know that I
just
like
like,
that word. It's a
yeah,
shift. It's just a,
shift. Right. Mm-hmm. Um, One of the things that, and I just as I'm thinking about Anise, like that I learned from her was around the language, right? So like the different language can have a different energy to it. And so sometimes when you shift your language, it helps you shift your mindset and your energy around a particular thing. And, I always liked the term she taught me that I used to say busy, and
mm-hmm.
busy had this feeling of heaviness to it. And I would look at my calendar and I would just feel like it was closing in on me. I was busy, ugh, right? And the term she used, which I now use, is richly scheduled. I'm richly
Richly
scheduled.
scheduled.
And to me, my calendar still looks just as as
It's the same.
crazy, but it feels different when you say I'm richly scheduled. Um, and so, I think, and you and I, as we work through our stuff around money, right?
Mm.
That there is a different energy when you say you're investing in something versus when you're spending
Yes.
something, right? And so I've been inviting my clients to use different language, especially when I notice them using a particular language that feels like it has a different energy. And I'll say, have you noticed that you say this a lot? And like, what would happen if you said this instead? Or what other word could you use? And it does help them sometimes shift then their mindset into looking at the issue or the, opportunity differently than the energy that they had when they were viewing it as a problem. And,
It's
it had this
beautiful.
kind of ickiness to it. So,
Yeah. Moving
yeah.
moving from reactor to creator in a
Mm-hmm.
simple shift of language. And
Yeah.
oftentimes on the Coaching Magic podcast, Marissa, we take timeouts. And so this is a timeout because I want to point out to everybody, go back and listen to Marissa. She did this before she was talking about it, before she was teaching us about it. So I was asking her a question. Where is that sharp turn? The words came out of my mouth, and because I had heard that somewhere, and I wasn't quite sure I liked those words. But
Mm.
Marissa picked up on that. And this is just naturally Marissa being Marissa. She's not trying to do any of this. She picked up on it and she said, I actually like the word shift. So, right there in the moment before we were even talking about what are
Mm.
those things you can do to shift instead of sharp turn, she was already in her coaching magicness. So, Marissa, thank you for giving us a good example.
And I didn't even know that I
And
did
she
that. So
didn't even
how
know
cool
it.
was that? Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It's just,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what? This podcast is all about getting masterful coaches on the podcast, and then we get to
There you
point
go.
it out and just sprinkle it
Mm-hmm.
out there for everybody. I now we're returning from our commercial break, our commercial
Yeah.
timeout.
Yeah.
This word choice, I too have found so powerful. And one of the most powerful stories in my backpack of coaching stories, Marissa, is one of them is about you,
Ooh.
actually. So here we go.
Oh boy. What are we going to
I
reveal?
know. What are we
Yeah.
revealing? We do reveal stuff on the podcast. I think you'll love this one. there was something that you and I were working on together, and you said, well, what I struggle with is.
Mm.
And do you remember what we transformed that into? Do you remember what the word was?
I think it's we're playing with.
Yes! Yay!
Hmm.
Yay! I'm so glad
Yeah.
you remember that like I remember it.
Hmm.
And it was
Yep.
just taking it out of
Hmm.
exactly what you just said, that
Hmm.
just a heavier energy or a heavier, dense, or I mean, gosh, struggle, right? Like I'm
Hmm.
on the struggle
Yeah.
bus.
Struggle feels icky, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it feels low energy. It feels like I have to muster all of my strength to then
Hmm.
go get something done. But play
Hmm.
is full of
Hmm.
curiosity and lightness. Um, do you want to riff a little bit on how that word, how you've integrated that word, maybe even in the last year or so?
Yeah. Well, again, just going back to the money conversation we were mentioning. So, um, just talking about like investing in or playing with, or I'm, you said you name your bank accounts with fun names, right?
Yeah.
So that it feels different to put money in the whatever account
Yes, I
versus
do.
like business savings account, business
That's
checking
right.
account, blah, ugh,
And
right?
also
So,
remember, they're named hot boyfriends.
they
One
are
is
hot boyfriends.
Marcus and
Yes,
one is
yes. Hmm.
Todd. I
Yeah.
mean, who wouldn't like to put money there?
Uh, but just that idea that like you can have fun with some of this stuff. We can sometimes get caught up in, corporate language. And, I notice this a lot with my clients when we're creating core values. They will sometimes get stuck in this rut of, integrity, respect, collaboration, like just kind of the same words over and over again. And I'll say, like, let's play with using some different language that like you guys would actually use in real life, and when they so what does integrity mean to you? Give me an example. And I, help them pick out the words that they're using. And we put those on the board. They're like, oh, that feels a lot more like us. Okay, great. Like, then let's do that, right? It's okay to say get shit done instead of productive,
Right.
right? In
Yeah.
terms of, the language that you're using. So, I think language is a big has been a big focus for me in the last few years, is just noticing the energy that comes with the language that we use, and I think sometimes people feel obligated to use a particular language because everybody else is doing it, but like let's do something different. Again, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So what if that's the thing that changes how we feel about work? What a concept.
What a concept.
So mm-hmm.
Bringing more play
Yeah.
in to your session room. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just delighted in the stories you've shared with us in Coaching Magic on the things
Yeah.
that you've done. And one of the things you did, you are in Ann Arbor. And in Ann
Yes.
Arbor, there is a tradition for small businesses to have
Mm-hmm.
something in in their location. Do you want to tell us about
Yeah.
that?
Sure. So I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and around town there's this tradition of having little fairy doors, which are these little, 6-inch, 4 to 6 inch doors that people put, somewhere fun in their business, so in a coffee shop or, in a restaurant or in a retail location, and it's primarily for children to discover, right? And so, but grown-ups like it too. And so kids will put like a penny on the door. That's how they, feed the fairies. There's a whole fairy door book, The Fairy Doors of Ann Arbor. It's a whole thing. And so in my new session room, I decided to put a little fairy door. I'm not going to tell you where it is because you have to come visit me to find it.
That's right. It's a
But
secret. It's
again,
like a
just
hidden fairy door. But how much
yes, just a
fun
fun little thing.
I feel like it just adds. I mean, we're doing serious work. We
Yes.
are. I mean, if I sit and really let myself get into it, as coaches, especially, well, I can't even say especially, but I'll say it anyway. Especially business coaches, we are we are coaching teams who are creating jobs,
Hmm.
sometimes cutting jobs,
Hmm.
opening new locations, bringing more things to our economy, sometimes taking
Hmm.
things out of our economy.
Hmm.
We there's a certain amount of trust that they place in us,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
oftentimes they'll be stuck and look at us and say, "Where do we go from here?"
Hmm.
And it's up to us to just kind of, jumble that up and help get it unstuck. So I sense that us as coaches, we are in the middle of this flow of
Hmm.
energy, of our economy,
Hmm.
of jobs, of people loving their jobs
Hmm.
or going home and hating their jobs. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of impact we can have. So we take our work seriously.
Hmm.
It's impactful. It's impactful work.
Right.
And if we surround our coaching energy with that much seriousness and heaviness, we can't be creative. And it's up to us to help just get them creative. Just
Hmm.
jiggle their
Yeah.
creativity until it comes out a little bit.
Yeah.
So to surround, to put a fairy door in your session room just adds this little bit of fun.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of fun to
Hmm.
bring some lightheartedness to it. One of my coaches, Steve Chandler, would say, "We take our work very seriously. We don't take ourselves seriously."
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Isn't that fun? So, like, Marissa does
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
serious, awesome, impactful work, and she has a fairy door in her session room.
Yeah. Yeah. You can have both.
Yeah, you can have both.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the secret. That's the magic.
Yeah.
It absolutely can be both.
Jill, if you're talking about shifts too, so we talked about language, but also I was just thinking about the psychological terms of my workshop there, and one of the other shifts I think that is impactful for people is the subject object transition,
Ooh, see
right?
how serious
Ooh,
that
ooh, yeah,
sounds? The
right.
subject object.
But
But please
yeah,
tell us
so that's
more.
my little psych 101 term. But generally the idea there is just people come in with all of this stuff swirling around in their heads, right? And so there can be, again, 3 to 7 people in the room, sometimes more, with all of these, stressors from, work and home and, family and all this other stuff, plus ideas that they have. And, it's just swirling, and you can feel it sometimes when they
Mhm.
walk into the room what that energy is, right? They might have just been like on the phone on the way in. Somebody's, they're yelling at somebody or somebody's yelling at that, like, right? They're checking their email as soon as they get on a break. And there's this just
Mm.
frenetic kind of energy. And the power of the whiteboard, right? So that we have in our rooms, I have these 2 8-foot whiteboards in my space that I meet with clients, and I think you have something
Mhm.
similar in yours, right? To just as they're talking, to take what they're saying and put it on the whiteboard in 3 words, simplifies it down. It gets them to stop spinning. They feel like so the subject, right? But it becomes like they're the subject of it. They take this thing and they put it on the board, and now it's an object, and they can
Yes.
impact it versus it being this thing that's happening to them. Now they can see it on the board and they're like, oh, that thing I just repeated in my head 25 times is really just one thing. It's not 25 things, but your brain is perseverating on it, and so it feels 25 times worse than if you just put it on the board and say,
Get it
so,
out.
our process is broken, right? So the invoicing process is broken. I don't need the 400, page story of how broken it is, but let's just put that on the board in 3 words. So when people come in with all of this stuff, and then, halfway through the day, we just have like 40 things on the whiteboard written out in these nice columns. They're kind of like, they just kind of go, okay, okay, now we can go tackle that. And it's not spinning as much in their heads anymore. So there is power in writing that down. So we do that for clients, but if you do that for yourself, I have the same thing. I'll feel like I have all this stuff to do, and then I write it down. I'm like, oh, wait, this is it,
That's
right?
it.
Here's my list
I
for the
love it.
day. Like I can
Yes,
totally
please.
handle that, right? Hmm.
Subject, object.
So
Did you
that's
call
a
it
shift
transition?
too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that's a shift.
And
So
again, my mom probably could explain that differently,
no,
but
I like you explaining it. It makes a ton of sense to me. And it's
great.
again, that's another way to move people from that reaction mode. You called it frenzy. I
Hmm.
feel that. I felt that
Yeah.
frenetic.
Hmm.
I feel that
Yeah.
into creation mode. Uh,
Hmm.
Take it out of our heads, get it in front of us,
Hmm.
take it from a
Hmm.
subject to an object. That's beautiful,
Hmm.
Marissa. Beautiful.
Hmm.
Let's keep going because this is so good. So a
Right.
word shift, language shift, and
Hmm.
it's so the two that the three that I think we've already done is language. Lightening things up. It's
Hmm.
normal. It's natural.
Hmm.
Subject object transition. I'm witnessing us talk about these, and these are so. If I'm going to collect my thoughts. If someone were to witness us doing this, Marissa, and and clients walk out of our session rooms, out of our spaces, and they're clear and they're having that creator energy now, that's what I call coaching magic because
Hmm.
it's so subtle. Your word choice is you just using your word choice and modeling that is subtle. You saying, "Hey, why don't you say what's on your mind and I'll put it on the whiteboard." It's
Hmm.
you don't even have to say that. They say it, you put it on the whiteboard. It's
Hmm.
so subtle. The light-hearted things that are around our session rooms,
Hmm.
they're so subtle. I have toys in my session room. They might not be so subtle,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it's on purpose. It's not
Right.
just for fun.
Hmm.
There's a purpose to it. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to point out they're
Hmm.
subtleties. What else in your bag of psychology tricks would you say shifts a team from reactor over to creator?
I think sometimes it's our own energy as well, right? So it
Mm,
may not be the words you're using, but if I have a team that is low energy, they seem defeated, they seem just
mm,
tired, overwhelmed, right? Then I shift my energy into a higher state and try to get them to see the good in what's happening or the positive or what's the opportunity or whatever. And so shifting it that way. Sometimes I have a team that's having a little too much fun and we got to get back to the thing at hand. And I'll kind of go, okay, so back to where we need to go. And I'll kind of do this. And, so I feel like a lot of times our role, especially with a team, is to balance that out, right? To, if they're too high, we got to bring them down a little bit. If they're too low, we got to bring them over here a little bit. If it's too serious, we got to inject a little, lighthearted humor in. If it's, um, again, too much fun,
mhm.
we're not staying on task, right? We
Yes.
got to bring them back to
You're
the agenda and refocus them. And so, yeah, being the yin and yang, I guess, to the energy in the room, can sometimes help shift it to a place of productivity and creativity instead of, reacting and being feeling defeated. So,
Marissa, that's such a
mhm.
finely tuned way to show up in your presence, in your magic.
Mm, mhm.
Can can you maybe share maybe what it felt like as you were discovering that? Like, ooh, oh,
Mm.
I got to get us back on track, or oh boy, this team needs some energy, and I got to do this. Like, can you talk about when you first started to sense that? Or
Gosh, I feel like I've been doing it for so long. I'm not sure that I can remember um, what that felt like. I definitely know what it feels like if I've had to balance out an energy like all day,
oh
right? If,
yeah.
because I think sometimes there's these momentary things like people kind of
Mhm.
like we're talking about something tough and then you kind of shift it and then they're right. But sometimes there's this team that's just this is where they are,
Mhm.
right? And so you're kind of in the only word I can think of is cheerleader mode all
Mm,
day, right? Where you're like, okay, so who's got an idea for that? Now what? And like, what about this?
mhm.
And like at the end of that, I can feel very like, whew,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like I ran a marathon or whatever. Um, versus other teams where sometimes it's just these little shifts that have to happen throughout the day
Mhm.
versus feeling like you're really almost supporting them all day, that you're holding them up. It feels very different energetically, um, as a coach. And
Mm.
so again, that's where then I need to make sure that I'm giving myself grace and recovery time, because every team is different. And some, we have sometimes 5 different teams in one week,
Yeah.
right? And that's 5 different energies. And again, that energy might have shifted 5 different times within each session. And
Wow.
so, of course, by Friday, we're, you know, ready to go to sleep at
Hmm.
7 p.m.
That's right. That's a lot of
So just again,
noticing.
yeah,
That's a
yes, it's a lot of
lot of
noticing, right?
noticing.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be, I mean, present that entire time. And that takes energy as well as the energy of, holding space for the team.
Hmm.
So, yeah, again, the empathy for ourselves in those moments is important as well.
I remember
Um,
my experience of this was I feel like I was so inside myself, like worried about
mhm.
myself. Do I
Mm,
know the words? Do I know the question? Am I
mm,
good enough? Am I smart enough? Gosh darn it,
mhm.
do people like me? All the things.
Right,
In,
right.
in the early years, that I remember this one
Hmm.
experience where two people started fighting, physically fighting in the room.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, somebody better do something about this. And then immediately it was, oh, I think that's me.
That's me. Yeah.
Because I'm the
Right.
one. Am I in charge? Am I? And
Yeah.
I immediately jumped into mom mode, which was really
Hmm.
interesting. Which was all the experience I had had
Hmm.
from human beings physically fighting was as a parent.
Mm.
So I just went into mom mode. I got in between them and put my hand on both of their chests, and I think I said something like, "That's not how we act here." I don't remember.
Do you need a timeout?
You need a
Right.
timeout. I mean, it was just, I was channeling whatever I had. It was just
Right, right.
there. I said, that's not how we act here as
Hmm.
professional leaders. That's like,
Hmm.
this isn't how you treat your brother. Um,
Right.
and I remember that throwing me into a, a frenzy of sorts of how do I do this in the future?
Hmm.
How
Mm.
do I, sense this coming? How do I prevent it? All of that. And so I think that was a big thing that sent me on my path of really like, oh, sitting with the energy and noticing
Hmm.
it, even when I wasn't using my this type of brain, using this type my brain and my heart.
Hmm. Right.
And so to hear you give this account of your noticings of where you are in a whole week was just so useful for me
Hmm.
because it's like, it's so
Hmm.
specific.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Lots of different things at play as we coach,
That play.
you know.
So
Yeah.
the last one I would love us to dig into is you said being aware of our energy. And I'd like us to go into a little bit of like physically, like the coach's energy
Mm.
physically. And I know you have a few practices for this for keeping your Marissa energy in its tip top
Hmm.
form. And I'm talking more about like the heart energy and
Mm.
the mental energy and all of that. Do you want to share some things that might help coaches shift teams from reaction to creative just by being
So,
aware of their energy?
like in the moment or just in general?
Whatever is coming to you. I think all of
Mm.
it.
All of
All
it.
of it.
All of it. I mean, um, I think, you and I have talked quite a bit about the more prepared you are
Mm.
for the work you're about to do, if you do that preparation up front, then when you're in the room and in the coaching interaction, you're not having to worry about all of those details too. When is lunch coming? Is it too hot in here? What's next on the agenda? Did I print that thing out? Like, if you're doing all of that in the moment, then you're not able to be present and notice and support and hold space and all of the things that you really need to be doing as a coach. So, the more prepared you can be, either for those just logistical things, or if you didn't get enough sleep, if you didn't eat breakfast, if
Mm,
you didn't get your morning walk, if any number of things going on in your personal life, those things can be a distraction as well. So just making sure you kind of have your stuff handled, right? So
for
that you
sure.
can be as much in the moment, having an assistant who can handle some of those, details for you, so it's not on your brain, right? There's lots of different strategies, and I think different people are distracted by different things too. And so, some people can just compartmentalize that when they're in the room, they're not worried about these things. Other people can't do that as easily. And so they might need to have different strategies. So kind of knowing yourself and what
Mm,
enables you to show up best, and then, making sure that you're following those
yeah.
best practices consistently, to set yourself up for success,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
is
getting this
important.
this sense that like preparation isn't the same for every person, for every
Yeah.
coach, for sure.
Hmm.
And to know your kryptonite, like know where your kryptonite is and
Hmm.
prepare around that. That's
Right.
brilliant. In fact, I
Yeah.
want to go think about that for myself. I'll be right
Hmm.
back.
Yeah.
One of the things I know that you do that I really enjoy is you have shared with me that you prepare in chunks. You'll take
I
big
do.
chunks
Yep.
of time. You have some fancy coffee shops around Ann Arbor that you
Yep.
like to go
Hmm.
to. I think that's so great. And when I've tried to do that, go to a coffee shop and sit down and really do my thing, I
Hmm.
can't do it. I get
Oh,
distracted.
interesting. Hmm.
So I'm like, I have this dream of being able to do it, but it's not my routine.
Hmm.
Routines and dreams.
Hmm.
My routine is different than your routine, and it's so perfect. It's still so perfect.
Yeah. But I think what I've noticed is that some of the leaders that I work with haven't figured out what their routine is that will set them up for success.
Mm.
So similar, like they have routines, but like, is drinking two diet Mountain Dews as you stroll into the session, and then you haven't had breakfast and you're on your phone, and like, is that really setting you up to be the leader that your team needs you to be?
Mm.
Right?
So
Um,
look at your
and so,
routine.
right, right. And again, that doesn't mean everybody has to be up at 5 doing CrossFit and,
Nope.
eating
Nope.
avocado toast and all this other stuff. But, whatever, but just because you have a routine doesn't necessarily mean that it's working for you. And so, we were at the EOS conference a few weeks ago, right? And James Clear he talked about his book Atomic Habits, and I forget exactly what he said, but it was something to that effect of, that uh, the habits that you have may not be the habits that you need to get where you want.
Hmm.
So go look at what habits you have, and are they really the habits that you need to, you know, help you be successful as a leader.
There's a phrase
So, yeah.
that I've heard too, and it says the system you have is perfect
Mm-hmm.
for the results you're getting.
Yes.
So yes, I was a
Yeah.
former Mountain Dew drinker. I was up to
Mm-hmm.
6 Diet
Mm-hmm.
Mountain Dews a day, sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
forcing myself to sleep at 5 hours a night, and I was not getting the results I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the
Mm-hmm.
routine.
It was a routine. Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
play with
Yeah.
it. Play with your routines
Mm-hmm.
and shift
Mm-hmm.
some things. Shift some
Mm-hmm.
things. Watch your
Mm-hmm.
energy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Marissa,
when I had my own company, I remember I had this energy of like, oh, and I don't even have time to have lunch and go to the bathroom, and and at one point I was like, but why? Like, that's my own fault, right? Like, I'm the one who's setting up meetings back to back to back. I'm the one who didn't just go put a little refrigerator in her office with water in it. Like, if I just did that, that's this tiniest little thing. If I keep Cliff Bars in my desk, if I, so how can I shift? Like, what are the littlest things that I can do to shift that and change the story I'm telling myself, right? I was telling myself the story that I didn't have time to take care of myself, but really, you know, it didn't mean I had to go spend an entire day at a spa, right? But drinking a glass of water is taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Eating a granola bar between meetings is taking care of myself,
Yes.
you know? So just, yeah,
Oh
it
boy.
doesn't have to be giant things. It can
No,
be
we
little
could
things.
do a
Yeah.
whole other episode on the rules we create for
Hmm.
ourselves. I remember
Yes.
when I was
Yeah.
breaking out of a
Yeah.
certain schema, when I was breaking out of a
Hmm.
certain schema, I over and over asked myself, I was leaving a high demand religion. I was over and over asking
Mm,
myself, who made that rule? Who made that
mm,
rule? Who made that
mm,
rule? Oh, well, I can't do this. Wait, who made that rule? It was so
mm,
useful for me. And sometimes I'm
hmm,
like, wait, I actually like that rule. I'm going to keep it. And other times
mm,
I'm like, wait, I didn't make that rule. Nope, I'm going to let that one go.
hmm, hmm,
Ooh, but,
mm,
ooh, ay, ay, ay. Marissa, I'm
hmm.
wondering if in the last 2 minutes of our podcast, if you would like to play a game.
Oh, you know I love games, Jill.
Okay, here's the game. I am playing with this card. You've seen this before. I'm playing with this
Okay.
card deck. Sweet ass
Oh, okay.
affirmations. Rage Create
Awesome.
makes them. Our friend,
Okay.
our coaching magic friend Rachel Downey turned us on to them. So I'm going to shuffle the cards. I'm going to pull a card and then I'm going to share it with you and me. And then we're both going to share what this card means for us right now. And then
Okay.
you get to decide if you want me to go first or if you go first after I pull the card. Okay, ready? I'm not
Okay.
looking. See, I'm not looking. You can't see. Okay, here it
I'm not
is.
looking either.
This is so great. You're not looking either. This is so great because it's exactly what we've been talking about. I love these rage create
Okay.
cards. Okay, here it is. I react with peace and ease
Uh,
no matter how stinky the cheese. Oh, isn't that perfect?
oh boy, that's awesome.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
So, why don't you go first? Because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. So go for it.
I'm just gonna riff. This is
Okay.
for the coaches listening. This is one of our coaching magic skills that leads us into presence. Is just
Mm,
to see something, feel it, and then have a response versus a reaction. So I love what Marissa just did here. She says, "I'm not really
mhm.
sure." So she didn't try to like make something up or look cool. She's just like, "Jill, you go first because I'm not really sure." So here's what I react with peace and ease no matter how stinky the cheese. I'm looking at this as to me, this card is bringing up a whole bunch of evidence that this
Mm,
is what I do. I have 3 or 4 things happening in my life right now that I just as I'm reading this, I'm thinking these things happening in my life right now are delightful. And I'm very aware that I could have looked at them as stinky cheese. Just for
ooh.
one tiny example, my mom, who's 84, is getting married. She's marrying her
Yeah, Mom.
90-year-old boyfriend.
Mhm.
Now, I am so excited for her. It is the most delightful thing. She's spreading love and joy all over the planet. Her friends are excited. I'm excited, really, like I truly am. And I have had a few questions from friends like, well, what about your dad? Aren't you sad that
Mm,
she's going to marry someone else and now she's not married to her
mm.
dad? And I'm like, actually, no. I get a bonus dad. Now I get a bonus
Right,
dad.
right.
So
Hmm.
could my mom being getting remarried be some stinky cheese? It could be, but I don't. I react, and I'm changing the word to respond because that's important to me.
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
respond with peace and ease. I just do. And that was a really fun reminder to bring that in, like that is just a natural, normal part of me now is to react like that. And that's my
I love
truth.
that. Hmm.
All right, Marissa, how
Yeah.
about you?
Okay. Well, Jill, you know me well, and sometimes my body's reaction to stinky cheese is stinky, meaning like I get upset and I get, worried and I get anxious and I get that's my body's first reaction. And um my new practice is to notice that and then go record a video to either Jill or to myself or one of our other friends and talk through my reaction to it, because what I have noticed is if I verbalize my reaction, it's kind of like my little subject object transition, and I can get myself outside of the situation a little bit more easily. So there are other people who might journal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy journaling because I'm too much of a perfectionist and I will worry about my grammar and whatever else I'm writing down. But if I just talk to a video, it helps my body bring it down. Um, and then I can react with peace and ease. It might just be a little more delayed right now, but I can get there more quickly than if I were to try to work through it just on my own, talking to myself in my own head. So,
And being the person on the other side of
mm,
that,
mm,
even inside your processing of your stinky cheese,
mm,
I witness you responding with peace and ease.
mm,
As you also like to walk. You like to walk as you do
mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm,
And it's been
mm-hmm,
such a beautiful example of like seeing the reality of what is, and then yeah, this is part of the game. This is
mm-hmm,
part of the adventure. And it's
mm-hmm.
fine. It's fine. It's going to be fine. We named February. It's fine February. It's
It's
fine.
fine,
It's fine.
February. Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
fine February. But watching you do that, witnessing you do that is
Mm-hmm.
helps me. We say sometimes we'll say, because I can witness you, I can see
Mm-hmm.
me, right? Because I see you doing this, I
Mm-hmm.
see me doing this. And it's just such a joy.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a joy to be a coach with you and to have you as a bestie in this
Aw,
lovely and creative profession we call coaching, but also just life. Just life. Awesome.
love you.
I love you too. Thanks, Marissa.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for playing with me today in the land of coaching magic. If you want more magic, I invite you to explore www.jillyoung.com. This is where you can see all the shenanigans I've created for you to expand your world of coaching. See you there. And remember, you are magic.